Hey, what's going on, guys? Devin here, Backcountry Exposure. I've got a new tent to talk about today, and a tent that I didn't even need, but I purchased on a whim and has been surprising at how much I enjoyed it on the first time that I took it out. So much so that I want to share the Gossamer Gear The One with you. We're gonna get this set up, talk about it, and just kind of talk about why I didn't need this tent, but also the things that I've really enjoyed about it for my first time out using it. So before we get started here, the One from Gossamer Gear, I purchased literally over Labor Day weekend. I didn't need this tent at all. I have way too many one-person tents already, but I've been interested in this particular design, this particular tent for quite some time. It was on sale, so I went ahead and I bought it. And I'm actually really glad that I did, because I've wanted to really get into the Dyneema version that is coming out of this tent later this year. And so I wanted to see, do I actually like the design of this particular shelter before I spend over $500 for a Dyneema tent, because I'm trying to find the right Dyneema tent that fits the 1 pound kind of threshold for a shelter. And I think that this is going to accomplish that. But right now, with the way that I've got this set up with the stakes, the tent body, and then these carbon fiber poles from 6 Moon Designs, I'm at 29 ounces for the entire shelter weight. So on the Gossamer Gear website, it is not very apparent the total weight that you're going to get out of this, because it says 6 stakes minimum, but that doesn't include being able to stake out the bathtub floor of the tent. So you have to have more stakes for that. And then it's only fair to add the weight of your trekking poles as well, or your carbon fiber poles, which these are just over 3 ounces for the 2 poles here. But 29 ounces is pretty amazing for this type of shelter. Sil nylon, 10 denier, 7 denier type of fabrics. So let's actually pitch this, go over it, talk about the pros and cons of things that I've experienced so far, and get into that aspect of the One from Gossamer Gear. This is a 10 denier outer shell of the tent. It is a single wall shelter, meaning that there is no inner body to it, other than on the walls here for the door to get in, and the opposite side you do have a nice no-seam mesh panel with a good D-shaped or J-shaped door opening, which is nice because it doesn't fall down into the ground and that kind of thing that you get with a lot of the arc or arch style type of zippers. Now if you look, you may not be able to see it here on camera, but with these 49-inch carbon fiber poles, they don't have a big diameter to them, so they are arcing a little bit. And if I was to really crank things down, it would just push down on them a little bit more, which I'm probably only going to use these poles when I know that weather is not going to be super crazy. If I might experience a little bit of rain, then I'll bring them. But if I am planning to experience crazy weather, these will not be the poles that I bring. I will bring some bigger diameter carbon fiber poles or my carbon trekking poles to give the body of the tent a little bit more structure. But even then, the ridge line of the tent is pretty tight with how much you have these bending. Super strong, super lightweight. But that's the next point that I want to talk about with this particular tent. It just pitches so well. I kind of took my time, and it was 6 minutes to set this thing up complete, ready to get into it and start getting ready for all of my sleeping stuff, my sleeping pad, sleeping bag. 6 minutes, that's pretty good. And I love how tight everything gets. Even though it's this really thin 10 denier sil nylon for the body and the outer of the tent, as well as the floor, it gets really tight. Now, that does pose an issue where you're going to have rain and everything on it. Then you're going to have to tension everything, pull things nice and tight. So you have to keep that in mind when the walls of the tent, or you're experiencing rain. This thing is going to stretch and everything. But it does pose a little bit of an issue for me, because typically I really like the floor, the bathtub floor of the tent, to be nice and tight. And Right now I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stakes included with this, and not any of the bathtub floor is staked to the ground. So 8 includes these mid-panel guy lines that are being held up with a stick on the ends to increase more living space within the tent. And that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed with this, and why I'm so surprised at how much I have enjoyed it. Because when you get inside of this shelter, it is wider at the top than it is at the bottom, and you don't have to worry about all of the issues that you have with one-person tents of not having enough shoulder room because the peak of the tent comes in at an arc or whatever, and poses issues in that case where on a single wall shelter you're going to have condensation issues, and I don't want to have to be rubbing against the inside of the tent when that kind of scenario happens with the shelter. So getting into some of the features and stuff about the tent, like I said before, you've got a ton of vestibule space here, and with this door all the way open, you can actually also roll this back as well. So you've got the ability to have this cord that is fixed to the shelter and to the peak, and on a beautiful clear night, I can roll this back, have that open, and I can watch the stars, I can have good ventilation, and just enjoy the experience a little bit more. But then it just clips down here without having to unhook something like you get on the Lanshan or like on the duplex or such. Really simple. You've got a nice number 3 size zipper that hasn't been an issue even with all the sand and stuff that I've had. But you can see how flimsy this particular carbon rod is, but what they've done is added to this seam that's in the center of the tent just a little toggle that allows you to attach that, and that makes it so that the body of the tent is attached to the pole, giving a little bit more structure. Now if I get inside of the tent and you come in here with me, you can see how much space there is. So here at the foot end, this is one of my favorite things. You're 88 inches in total length for this. You're 28 inches at the foot end, 36 inches at the head end, and then you're 46 inches of height at the peak. But when I've got that guy line panel totally staked out, you can see how much space there is from my feet to the top of the foot end of the wall, or the foot end of the tent. And that's really important because I don't have to worry about, am I going to have a wet foot box? Is my sleeping bag going to get wet from all the condensation? And it really opens things up. Same thing here at the head end of the tent. You've got a lot of space. This panel guy out right here just adds a ton of space where your breath when you're sleeping is not going to be right against the wall of the tent. But one of the things that I don't love about this shelter is the fact that now I've got to add 4 additional stakes for me to pitch and really get a nice tight bathtub floor. It's not a deal breaker in any way, but I am somebody that likes to have a nice tight bathtub floor, especially when I'm in the desert. It helps keep sand at bay and just a lot easier to manage. But this space inside of this thing is amazing. It's wider at the head end than it is at the floor of the tent, and that makes it so that when I sit up, I really do have an amazing amount of space. I can move around, I can change, I can take my coat on and off and not have to be rubbing against the wall of the tent. And that is awesome for a tent that is at under 2 pounds in total weight. So guys, of all of the one-person trucking pole shelters that I currently own or have used in years past, like the Lanshan one or any of the Sierra Designs tents like the Flashlight or the Tensegrity, these are amazing. This has just surprised me so much in how easy it is to pitch, how tight of a pitch you get, It's not finicky. You don't have problems with trying to figure out how to make things work, the right height of your trekking pole. Like, those were issues that I had with the Lanshan, where it seemed like every time I pitched that tent, it was so difficult to find the right height. Where do I tension things first, and all of those aspects that made pitching that kind of frustrating. And I don't have that issue with this tent. This is probably the 8th or 9th, maybe 10th time that I've pitched this between trips and just being at home, and I get the same tight pitch every single time. That honestly is really important in a trekking pole shelter, for it to not be finicky and not be difficult to put up, because after a long day of hiking, you want something that's going to perform well, it's going to protect you and not take you unnecessary amounts of time of fiddling to be able to get it set up the way that it needs to be, to give you the experience of sleeping and being protected from weather that you need from a shelter. So they've done a good job with it, and I think that the Dyneema version of this and the 2 is going to be really cool. And once I pick one of those up, you're going to see it, we're going to talk about it, and probably compare and contrast between this one setup and that one setup and go from there. But there you go, guys. Curious what you guys think about the One from Gossamer Gear. If you have it, what your experience has been like, and yeah, all of that. So appreciate you guys watching today. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and we will catch you on the next video. See you later.